and welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. I thought I'd share another Star Wars collecting video with you. This one had a happier ending than the Star Wars Stormtrooper rifle story did. Back in the early 80s, I was practically finished off collecting all of the different Star Wars action figures of the time. Obviously, some that were never available, things like the Boba Fett with the firing rocket were never in my collection, but I did have what I thought was all of them. And I bought a vehicle, I'll show it off another time, but in the case came this Star Wars Planetary map catalog where kids could see and confirm all the different items they had in their collection. Had a neat little collection of images of all the different planets. There you get an idea of the kind of stuff. This is all about the planet Tatooine here. There's the Sarlacc pit. There'll be some discussion of that later. And on the back, it showed various vehicles you could collect, etc., etc. But most importantly was this collection of images of all the different Star Wars action figures. And I thought, yeah, that's great. I'm going to make sure I've got every single one on this list. And I do. Except for one. So the one figure of this list that I was missing happened to be figure number 1. Yak Face. And when I saw this on the list, I thought, wait a minute, I don't have him. I better get him. I didn't realize how difficult that was going to be. So yeah, here I was looking through this catalog and thinking to myself I had almost everything on this page, which I do, by the way. I'll be doing videos about all these different vehicles and characters later on. But when I found Yak Face in the corner there, that kind of annoyed me. I thought I had all the different figures. So I had a look around. Now this catalog is circa 1985. You can kind of tell there's a change going on at Kenner. They're having the wagon, the battle wagon from the Ewok Adventure movie, TV movie there. This A-Wing fighter, they had actually modified it to be like it is in the Droids cartoon. This is the period when Star Wars collecting was going through a change, and Yak Face went along with those changes. He was actually not released in the United States. There are rumors online that it was just delivered or just released in Europe and up here in Canada. I never found him in Canada, but yeah, it was not to be. I never did find Yak Face in any of the stores here in 1985. As a side note, who is Yak Face, you're wondering, and why the strange name? Well, he is like many of the creatures in the Star Wars movies. He follows the naming convention that probably a lot of the art production staff had. Rather than come up with real names for these characters, they just called them what they look like. So hence you've got Walrus Man and Hammerhead, and Yak Face has the face of a yak. So that's why they called him that. Who is he in the movie? Well, let me just cut to the scene in the film right now so you'll know exactly who we're talking about. Okay, so here we are, Return of the Jedi, the famous fight over the Sarlacc pit. And you're going to hear more about this in future for sure. Poor Boba Fett is about to fall to his doom into the pit, but that's not why we're talking about this sequence. What we're talking about is Yak Face. He actually shows up here. So I just thought I'd very briefly show you exactly where. On board Jabba's sail barge, after the burp, you're going to see Leia escaping. She's going to be breaking free from her bonds, and Yak Face is kind of in the background of this sequence here. And I will just show you, he's coming up right now. There he is there. That is Yak Face. So, that's the sequence that he appears in. Right, so there's Yak Face from the movie. There's one brief moment on film. The expanded universe has since gone on to give him a more proper sounding name. Apparently it is Selt Marae. I may not be pronouncing that correctly, but that's what the fans have called him since. There will be more about the Sarlacc pit in the future. In fact, I'd even recommend you click on my Return of the Jedi TV remote to be taken to a video where I show not only this remote, But another little hint about the Sarlacc pit. Go ahead and click on the remote there. So yeah, I never did find Yak Face in any of the stores up here in Canada. At least not in the 80s. About 10, 12 years later, I was downtown and I walked past a collectible store, had comic books and various memorabilia, wandered in there, and what did I see on the shelf? But Yak Face. This is the tri-logo version of Yak Face. This is one of two versions of him. He is also in a Power of the Force version where there's like a coin that comes with him. But this is the tri-logo version. And you can see he's in perfectly good condition. He's never been opened. He, like all tri-logo versions of Yak Face, he doesn't have a weapon packed. The Power of the Force version, the one with the coin, he's carrying a staff, much like a lot of Jabba's other henchmen. The tri-logo version, obviously, English, French, and Spanish, or English, French, and Spanish. It also has a large barcode. I think there's also a version that has a small barcode. I don't know which of these is more rare, but I think of Yak Faces, the one with the coin, the Power of the Force version, is even rarer still than this. But this is quite a well-sought-after toy. I got him. Admittedly, it's not in perfect condition. You can see at the top, a big chunk has been taken out where that should be that bridge across. So I should actually get this graded. I know there's some company online that will grade your figures and put them in a special case. I should do that. You can see he's had a few dimples and marks and pock marks, but he's holding up pretty good for his age. The story behind purchasing him is rather... I'm sure a lot of Star Wars collectors are going to be mad when they hear about this. You got to remember, it was the 90s. Star Wars had kind of faded from interest for a lot of people. It was much more the period of Star Trek and Star Trek The Next Generation. And that was mostly what was in this store. But I saw Yak Face up on the shelf. The store wanted $100 Canadian for him. And I thought, yes, I will get him. He is the last one in my collection I need to get. Okay, $100, no problem. So I didn't have $100 on me, but I went to the nearest... I asked the fella to put him behind the counter. I'll go to the nearest bank machine, come back. So I did. I had 6 or 7 $20 bills in my pocket now. And I said, yes, I would like to buy Yak Face. $100. Now in Canada we have various taxes. So I believe, I can't remember which way the sales tax worked, but let's say it was $107 was the total price tag. I reached into my pocket, got out 6 $20 bills, and I said, there you go, please pack them up. And the shop clerk, I guess I didn't get a lot of business back then. He kind of looked, he's like, do you have any change? I said, no, just the 20s. And he's like, I don't have any change in my cash register. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just make it $93 or $94 so that it works out to $100. So there you go. And I was like, but I've got 6 20s. I'll give you $100. I didn't say I'll give you $120 for him, but I couldn't wrap my head around why he was going to give me such a deal. And I guess back in that time, nobody really cared about Star Wars. So he probably figured, well, yeah, I'm getting rid of some old merchandise. I'll knock a couple bucks off it just for the sake of just some change. So for less than $100, I got Yak Face. And that is just incredible. I'm sure most Star Wars fans would be livid to hear that by now. I'll post a couple of images now of what Yak Face has gone for online. Loose, he goes for at least $100, I think, or some people have got him for less than that. But carded, now this isn't grade A condition, but carded, I'm sure this thing goes for a lot more than $100. One final thing, and I'm going to just zoom in, but I never understood on the back here where they show all the action figures and that, these two have been blacked out. And I've seen that consistently on a lot of Yak Face figures. It's number 78 and 79. Now, number 78 is Paplu, which is a standard Star Wars Ewok action figure, so I'm not sure why they blacked him out. The other one is just listed as Ewok Warrior. And I'll just zoom in here so you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, so if you notice there, number 78 and 79. 78 is Paplu. 79, Ewok Warrior. And they are just blacked out, like somebody's taken a jiffy marker to them. But I've seen this on a lot of Yak Face boxes. I'm not sure why. So there we go. There is my Yak Face figure and my Yak Face story. I've had him for 20 odd years. I got him for a great deal, and I'm very, very pleased to have him in my collection. But I should probably get him graded and put him in a special box pretty soon, I would say. Anyway, so there we go. A Star Wars collectible story that's got a happier ending. And until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.